Welcome back to HGC era, week number 9. Right now, we're heading into game number 3, Roll20, Monkey Menagerie. I thought this would be an interesting matchup. If game 2 was any indicator, that's exactly what we're going to get.
I mean, for me, it's the honest question: who do you pick when you're a Crucible team? I actually even posted a poll on Twitter right now because I want to know what people think. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, I have no idea. With Roll20, you at least know what you get. The monkeys seem weaker, but then they always have those strategies that come out of left field, like this one, where they are saying, like, yeah, we saw that on an A, tried that out, have a good idea here, and then you look at those 2 drafts within the game, and you quickly realize that Roll20 got completely outdrafted and had basically no chance outside of individual mistakes and a perfect execution on their own part to get a kill there. So it's wild. It's really wild, and so is the series. We have a tie, and we're heading into game number 3. I mean, let's bring it.
The Bananas and the rest of us will have another opportunity to decide who should get picked in Crucible. Game number 3 is ready. Let's see where we're going. The Monkeys, after taking us to Volskaya in an interesting fashion, I'm curious to see what strategy they could potentially have here.
They love Cursed. Pick Cursed so many times, 8 times already chosen by them. This is the 9th time now, and they just like to play this map. Pick it all the time. It has actually been banned out against them a few times now too. So normal draft, something crazy, we don't know, but we're gonna find out. And we had a double global already from Roll20, so this is another map where globals are just perfect.
I think that could be a nice way to get ahead or around some of these oddball comps that the Monkeys seem to be favoring these days. One of the things that I do like about going up against a team where you do get these wild strategies is, Caldor, you go for something super vanilla. In the earlier portions of a draft, you take heroes that can fit into almost any composition. So when you do see the back-end Uther, Zul shenanigans, you can then curate a response without leaving yourself back against the wall.
I'm not used to cast with someone that also doesn't have hair. Like, they put the single on you. I'm currently looking down at my sheet, like looking at my notes and my stats, and all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye on the screen, you appear there, and immediately, why the hell would they put me on a single right now? I'm not the one talking. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Tim isn't here. Like, the guy might not have hair, but that's not me.
You're tan. I don't know if you're that.
It's like, fair enough. That being said, if I'm looking like this, I don't see all the colors on that monitor. So it's just like, but yeah, for a second I was just like, why would you put me on the single? I'm starting to look up and I'm like, oh, wait.
Most aerodynamic caster duo at EU.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like in any race, we'd be the 2 at the front for sure. There's like no one else that can keep up with that.
Done. Hanzo again banned out by the Menagerie. Robodoba likely will never see Darash again in his best of 5. Roll20, they still feel confident in his first pick to Ronda.
I mean, the Hanzo ban doesn't really shock me too much. He was already banned on the previous map. He's even stronger here, especially, of course, with a double boss. Yeah, Make now with Genji. Alex put it really well the last time they played Genji in HGC on his stream later. He said, Make was winning and losing us the match at the same time because he was always going so deep and getting an insane amount of kills, but Make was just absolutely bonkers in this game. He jumped in so deep in a few situations that he just was overdoing it and then dying, so it was like really that mixed bag where he had insane kills, but then also trying to achieve a bit too much in certain situations that didn't really work out. But yeah, Diablo now taken for them, trying to also make sure that there's no Diablo and Tyrande synergy, taking another hero off Robodoba. Again, very likely to see Muradin here for Roll20. Can't really see them go into a Johanna. It's not impossible, but I would expect them to play Muradin here. But they want the global first.
They take away the Rainer. They do go back to the global. So a blending of the strategies of going for what works, going for the play around, but also taking something that's very neutral. Rainer fits into almost any situation these days. But the Diablo pick could shore up some of those potential flaws in the heavy dive from Genji for the Monkeys. He jumps in too.
I'm curious. Roll20 did not pick a tank. And again, with Garage banned out and Diablo taken, immediately the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, Robodoba needs Muradin. Monkeys know that too, so they ban out Muradin, but Roll20 must have known that it's likely to happen. So I want to see what the tank choice is on their end.
Fury and Zul, all day, easy, GG.
Could be. I'm not going to put anything past these teams anymore. But yeah, so do you really want to play Johanna here? I mean, she's not horrible, but at the same time, it's not really the hero that I associate personally with Robodoba, and it's also not the hero that for the map I would pick over Muradin. But they just gave that up because they wanted to have Reyna, they wanted to have their Haka. but Monkeys immediately identified that there is a weakness to be exploited on the front line, and they're going to try and do that. Roll20, is it going to be Johanna? Are they going to try something different? I don't see them with an Nubarak composition, but I mean, there's a couple of options that he could still go for. I'm honestly curious now.
Another strong synergy with Tyrande is ETC, who's seen a slight resurgence. If they are going to go for heavy global, maybe they want to go for stage dive.
I thought about that too, but I cannot see ETC in their setup. And Robadoba, I haven't really seen him a lot on ETC, but I can't picture that that's a hero that wouldn't get punished. Yeah, there's a Nubarak.
Nubarak, so they can at least lock down one hero with Cocoon. I like that strategy a lot because in that last game, it seemed like Roll20, they didn't really know who to go for, and there wasn't even really a right answer because there's always going to be Bunker, there's always going to be Divine Shield, but if you can just put one of them on a timeout and they can't press that button at all, then you can potentially get that takedown. The Blaze got so much value last go-around, not at all surprised to see that be picked up again.
Now, I gotta admit that I do not like the Nubarak, and I'm going to tell you why, because from what I feel Robadoba needs is a hero, and I might be completely wrong and be completely proven wrong here, but from everything that we've seen in this phase, I feel what Robadoba needs is first of all a tank that is very sustainable. He needs a high hit point pool, he needs someone that has some self-sustain. That's why Muradin and Garrosh are great heroes for him. And Nubarak doesn't have that high hit point pool, and he's also very weak in the sense that if you miss the engage, you're in trouble. And Nubarak gets punished by a lot of other teams in the past a lot, and we've been talking about this point so much, that if you have a Nubarak, you want to URL with it, you want to have Blaze with it, someone who can help a Nubarak to stay alive. And if you don't do that, then what you need to do is have high execution so that when your engage starts, you get an immediate kill out of it. I have very high doubts that that can happen. With a Nubarak into Tyrande and a Dehaka behind it, there are a lot of tools where you can try and aim for that quick kill, but I think that there's a... I don't see that as a hero where I look at a Nubarak and I say, this is a hero where I can believe Robadoba is going to have an impact. I think that might be really a big problem for them. I would have more so liked Johanna here, even though she wouldn't have been my go-to for him. I would have loved for them instead to get Muradin early and sacrifice one of the other two heroes they picked in that rotation. But again, I might be wrong, but from my personal point of view, I look at this and I feel this is going to be an issue.
I have to agree. We'll see how it plays out, though. Game number 3 on the left is Roll20 Esports. Robadoba will be playing the Nubarak. Chris is on Rainer. Quacknick's playing Thrall. Zarmny's on Dehaka. And Chad back again throwing Owls with Tyrande.
And to the right side, after a pretty crazy game number 2, we have the Monkeys with Crosby on Phoenix for the auto attack damage. Mako obviously finds himself on his Genji since he went through the draft here. Alex on Blaze, Rema Baller on a more traditional tank with Diablo, and Deckard Kane played by Splendor. And coming quickly back to the Nubarak point also, we have so far only 2 games that Zealots played with the Nubarak, and both of them were lost. So not really a big sample size, but they haven't really found a win with the hero yet. That might change now. We're going to find out.
They certainly hope so. I'm always concerned when a Nubarak gets picked up and there isn't like a white main or just an immense amount of sustain to back it up, because he is one of those squishier frontliners. Or if he doesn't have a URL to have the armor, I'm worried about that. So Roll20 put themselves in a position where they have to pretty much secure a takedown off the burrow, because otherwise a Nubarak is just going to be floating out there. Zarmny again finds himself the recipient of early aggression from the Monkeys, is able to escape.
Honestly, I look at this and I'm currently questioning, who do you kill? You have Tyrande. The Hunter's Mark allows you to be a lot more dangerous to Diablo. We've seen that in the series that Leftovers played, where all of a sudden Mopsio was heavily punished when he was trying to go a bit too deep, just simply because that extra damage you get through the Hunter's Mark with Burst is a problem. And if we're seeing Thrall, for example, go into the Alpha Wolf later, that's extra percentage damage against Diablo that's going to threaten him. Outside of that, though, you don't really look towards Blaze and Diablo and Deckard and say, okay, these are the targets where Nubarak is going to make the dive. So you want to go into their backline. You have a very mobile Genji and a hero that can warp in the terms of Phoenix, so it's going to be difficult to go get on the 2 of them. I feel Roll20 has to play a lot around Dehaka and the Global here, and they also have to really nail the engage, whether that is with a potential Sundering on Thrall's sides and him using a flank, or with a good engage through a Nubarak and having the immediate cocoon. So I think the burden of execution is on the side of the blue team, and I feel Monkeys have a way easier draft to execute now.
I think the Monkeys have just gotten into Roll20's head because I 100% agree. How are they going to be able to find these kills? There's a lot of mobility to deal with that engagement. Decker Kane throws down the root. Bruiser Cam picked up early for Roll20, looking to make inroads there. But Crosby, Decker Kane, Diablo, enough to seemingly do.
But the issue we had there, Robadoba goes for the burrow, he misses it, and the first thing that happens after Nuburak does not connect the burrow charge, Remabola immediately tries to walk to him. If he is caught and just flipped over and pushed into that wall, he's just dead. Didn't happen here, so there's no I'm not trying to pin that on anyone, but that's exactly what's going to happen the entire time. Whenever the burrow charge is used, there will be an engage onto Nuburak, and they will try to punish him if he's in a bit too deep. In this case, it didn't have no consequence, but there's always going to be that attempt to go for Nuburak if he makes his engage.
Nice root afterwards. Make is going to be able to jump away. The Owl does chase him down. It will not be enough to secure the first blood of the game. The Menagerie look to be picking up their Bruiser Camp right as the first tribute's going to spawn. If this does become a prolonged progression, they could get value there. Roll20, they're not making too heavy an investment. They do have the Haka, so the moment the green light happens, there's a nice couple of stuns there from Robadoba. Maki is going to be able to dash out in the nick of time, but Robadoba shows he can still potentially make plays with this Anuba.
Yeah, Shat now with the channel as the rest of the team is trying the zones. Splenda is going to have some interrupts ready, but with Maki being so low, it's going to be very difficult for them to get the additional interrupts. Yeah, he's still trying to take it, but in this case, it's not quite working out. First tribute goes over to Roll20. Good opening for them. And in the mid lane, still a bit of pressure. Thanks to Alex and the camp here. Even the rest of the team is rotating in now, so they should at least get a turret. Maybe even two, since Roll20 has to take the safer path around the left side.
That's actually a really impressive rotation for me for the Monkeys. They send Blaze from top down to mid with the Bruiser Camp, and it forced Zarmany in a position where he couldn't get value off of the burrow to try to go for a team fight. Granted, Roll20 was able to come away with the tribute. All kinds of lockdown is going into Maki, but he still has an E key on his keyboard, and he jukes the Owl. No takedown just yet.
Yeah, waiting there even a bit longer. Experience now in the leader of Monkey Menagerie thanks to the two turrets that they took down. Talent-wise, not too many crazy adjustments just yet. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of the Emerald taken on Deckard Kane against Tyrande. That's one of the things that has been fallen off a bit. The Kanai's cube has been taken a bit more often. The build on Tyrande is pretty much stable with the Celestial Attunement on level 1 outside of the potential spell shield that you can get there. The Lunar Blaze on 4 and then the Loon's Chosen on level 7. That's pretty much what you see in most games. Thrall did not opt to go into the Frostwolf pack on level 4. That's the only thing he had. Traditional style from him with the Ancestral Wrath also on level 7. So pretty much the standard for the time being, and both teams still fighting around those tributes, but we haven't even found a single kill yet.
And because of that, I'm a little more concerned for Roll20 than the Monkeys. Right now, we've seen a few instances where they try to go for the takedown on Genji, who has so much mobility, and so many times he just narrowly escapes. And I think it's because Raynor, he does a lot of damage, but it's not necessarily burst. If they have Li Ming with Tyrande or something like that, that's somebody going home. Having this more standard, longer progression style of backliner could hurt them.
Yeah, it's more sustainable damage that they have, especially given the triple frontline that exists here. I think around level 10, the fights will become extremely interesting. And of course, the slow pace here at the start allows Remabola to stack his souls, and that makes Diablo very impactful. He's currently sitting at 68, so that's pretty huge for him already. If he can complete that towards the more important objectives when one of the teams is threatening Curse, that's going to be very important here. The one thing that we still have to point out, because we haven't really highlighted it just yet, is that the boss race on the side of Roll20 is actually looking pretty good. So coming off a team fight or having an exchange in bosses is going to work out for them. They can really burst those down quickly. And I think my eyes are currently on Thrall. I want to see what's the talent here. Korea has started to switch more and more into Sundering. They're really trying to get these flanks going. And if you think about the Thrall of old that was played a year and a half ago, you went into Sundering every time. And you were on Cursed Hall and other maps, you were always trying to get the flank engage and get good Sundering to split the opponent into your team and then get a quick kill of that. If they can make that work, it would be great. But there's still a chance that they are just going with the more traditional European pick and go into Earthquake to try and force the fight around that. But that's something that will change the dynamic of the game a lot.
I do think that they should go for Sundering. I'm not sure if that's exactly where they'll go because that last attempt on Genji in the mid lane, he was locked down forever, but he was still able to dash around. If Sundering's there for another second or so of lockdown, that is the difference between a takedown or not. The slows can help over these tribute fights, but will it be the same as just flat out displacing Deckard Cain from the rest of the team, getting that isolation to get the takedown? But the question I have for you, Calder, is game one, the composition for Roll20 was blow somebody up. They go into a composition that can perfectly respond to that, so they don't find too much success. The composition here, to me, also says we want to just blow somebody up. We want a Nubrak to go in. We want the Lunar Flare to land. Is that confidence from Roll20 that they feel that they can still execute that, or is it just a lack of versatility, or maybe they're just too narrow-minded about how they want to approach this match?
I don't think they're really too narrow-minded. They still have the Dehaka factor for the map, and that is a huge global aspect that you can run here. And the double global that we had on Dragonshire, that in particular really showed that they have different approaches to how they want to play it. I was also a bit caught off surprise by that Inuburak pick, as I said before, and it's not really what screams Roll20 to me. A bit of a different approach, a blow-up potential here. But you pointed that out earlier. If you really want to go for that immediate blow, you usually look towards a mage because you want to have burst damage, and that centers around cooldowns. If you're having a triple frontline and you play there with Reyna, the idea is oftentimes that he has very sustainable damage he can push out, and that you're not really that heavily hinging your entire damage output on cooldowns that can be blown, and then your opponent has a window that he can exploit. So I feel they have enough strategies here. This is something that I really haven't seen from them in that particular constellation. But they have several approaches to the map. And the Dehaka factor, once the map opens up and the forts are taken, can make a huge difference here. So I think these are a few elements they have. I just want to see what's the idea in the 5-on-5 team fights that we're going to see. What's the thought process there?
The dynamic will change a lot once those heroics come online. Back into game number 3. Remmerballer hanging out, just catching that soap. Does reveal himself to Quacknix. Diablo, Thrall, neither one really in the position where they're worried about a takedown. Menagerie looks to get value off of the siege camp. The next tribute will be in the top left portion of the battleground. So, Monkey Menagerie, they continue to try to apply this macro pressure while also having other facets to their composition.
Yeah, Roll20 is still behind in experience by a bit. They're currently pretty busy up at the top lane with Reyna, so I think that push at the bot lane could actually start to really hurt. We have also the tribute spawning topside, so with good interrupts, Monkeys can get a lot out of the bot lane pressure, especially since Dehaka isn't bot lane, so he can't stall that out. This is a bit unfortunate for Roll20 right now from a spawn perspective.
They rolled a 1, for sure. That is not the ideal scenario. Level 10 around the corner for the Menagerie, enjoying that experience lead. Shad gets some damage put on them by Maka. Zarya steps forward, misses the drag. Lunar Flare also used valuable cooldowns not to set up the initial engagement for Roll20. Alex, the Pro G and crew, they're looking pretty confident right now.
Yes, they're also very close to level 10. So if you're Roll20, you want to give this one up. You have Thrall bot side. Level 10 is just about to be there for the Monkeys. You try maybe to delay it a little bit, but in the end, this is one that Roll20 should give up because that level 10 is going to be there in a few seconds, and there we have it. You can't fight them.
I was a little shocked to see Zarya step that far out into the lane with everything to be kept in mind. Long range Al is going to annoy Alex Progy for a moment, but one way or the other. The second tribute should get picked up.
Yeah, Monkeys should get a double channel going here because there are I'm not quite sure what they're doing. This is actually going to be stalled out until level 10 hits for Roll20.
And the Owl again is going to connect. Robodoba, I don't know if he has Impale up again. Zarya is just locked in, reading the book, literally. Not going to be a takedown. Another interrupt. Alex the Progy's like, I'm just trying to get this tribute, guys, please.
It's like a double channel would have solved a lot of the problems here. I'm not quite sure how they are planning on getting that anytime soon because you will have interrupts on, from 3 heroes coming in. So a little bit of an odd situation here. The Monkeys had a free tribute, basically. Just soaking the owls, getting a double channel, anything. That wasn't the case. Now they try to go for the kill. And they're missing out on that a little bit. Okay. Rosby is low, so is Alex. Bunker has to be in use. And here comes Diablo. Remmerball is trying to change the tides of the battle here.
A wild Thrall or Diablo appears. No Thrall just
Sundering.
Show him on back in. Does he have the Sundering? Here it is. Press the R key. It has an impact. Splendor is going to get rooted down. Somehow able to survive. The X-Strike goes down. Shadow Charge. Rimmerballer says hello and goodbye to Thrall. Monkey Menagerie in a twist of fate get the takedown.
That was actually crazy that no one died after the Thunder Rain came through, that there was just not enough of damage output, and Deckard with the potions the entire time keeping them alive. Shad is still pissing people off here around the tribute. Finally, we have Market trying to interrupt that. The word is double channel.
This happens in my Hero League games where sometimes there's just like a principal tribute where both teams just seems like they're just throwing themselves into the meat grinder because they want that particular tribute just to say to the other team like, hey, you're not going to be able to take that away from us. It's starting to feel like that. The Menagerie, they have other things in mind, though. They can give up the tribute and go for the boss.
Like, am I crazy? Was there a change that I completely missed where you can't double channel anymore? Roll20 gets the tribute.
Oh,
There's the kill against Thrall, though. Boss has been given up for now. But I honestly feel like I missed the map change. Like,
I'm not
you can
sure.
still double channel, right?
Oh, yeah. Not according to the Menagerie, but there's a nice drag landing from his army. Thrall still waiting this one out. There's the jet propulsion from Alex the Pro G. Finds his way onto the back line of Roll20. Maka teleports forward. They're looking to get aggressive. There's the purification salvo.
Chris is in trouble.
Chris quite a bit. Hits the knockback. Not enough. Another takedown.
And that might not be the only one. They are already going for Zamani again. Remabola closing the distance. The overpower body blocks. Not quite. They're trying to get something done. The drag connects. Even the quick cocoon being used here by Nubarak to make sure that no one else dies. But it's 3 kills against 0. The tribute has been channeled by Roll20, though. They got it after all.
But is it worth it? Zarmany again hanging out in the lane, feeling like the fight is over, and the Monkeys are happy to show him that it is not. That is going to be the 4th takedown now for the Menagerie. There's the Sundering, isolates Alex the Pro G. 1v3 looks to be enough for the 1v9er. Roll20, they committed so much for that tribute. They do come away with a takedown at the end of it, and potentially they could come away with the curse, but that is a long-range gamble that they just played.
Yeah, and 13 is the big issue here. Of course, the interrupt potential is still strong for Roll20 through Toronda. I mean, it's one of the reasons why oftentimes we see her picked on these channel maps. But Monkeys are not even making that approach. The problem is that on the other side, Dehaka died. And once Dehaka is back, he can just simply burrow in with this global. So the Monkeys are just simply sitting there. It's like, oh, yeah, we're getting the kills. We have the talent advantage. But you know what?
What happened to Crow?
Let's just accept that curse for now. So they're getting cursed. And with that, they're trying to take the camp here to at least elevate the pressure from the mid lane. Now they have to make sure that there's not too much falling. I mean, so far it isn't too bad. Losing a fort is not the end of the world, but they need to split some on top side.
Yeah, if you can just lose one fort, I do imagine Doc will be able to lay waste to the top one. Also, standard amount of value overall for Roll20, who get the curse under pretty peculiar circumstances. Maka will be able to take the vision back. And so far, after going through that bottom fort, Roll20, even with the even talent here, they're not looking to get too aggressive.
Yeah, I'm still wondering why no one goes top.
Like, there's plenty of time on the curse.
It's an easy fort for Roll20 to take. The Hawkeye is having a field day there. Nobody's even trying to. They're just giving top fort up. Again, Roll20 is going to get a bit of a lead here, but this is just... They do know that Curse Hollow has 3 lanes, right?
They do know they can double channel. They do know they have 3 lanes. I also am concerned for some of the macro decisions that Roll20 is making. To heavily commit to that tribute over the top lane was a question mark. To go through the bottom fort, 30+ seconds on the curse, and you just kind of hang out in the middle of the map, question mark? Not sure.
Wait, you mean Monkeys, right?
No, Roll20.
You don't like what they just did? They just got 2 forts out of that fight.
I feel like they could have come. I don't know. I feel like they could have made more of a play. Impale goes out. There's the purification salvo. Elevator music playing for Diablo. Robodoba, a Nubarak, a noob is going to get taken out.
Now, Monkeys, they still have that power and that prowess in the team fights, and that has been a constant theme from the beginning of the game. And I think we talked excessively about how that comes to pass with a lot of how the draft shaped up. So Roll20 right now with 1 kill against 5. Monkeys are making the play for the boss. They're not too far behind. They were trying to be aggressive the entire time. I feel they just simply accepted that they... From me trying to look at this, they're probably accepting, okay, we cannot really deal with the global. We have to try and force fights because that's where we look stronger. So let's play to the strength of our own draft. And that's how they played that curse too. I still think that they could have rotated, for example, Genji up topside to try and help out a little bit and soak some of the experience there, not give that up for free, maybe someone else too. But I guess the idea was, okay, we're a little bit afraid of the Haka making a move. I like the original plan when the curse hit, that you take the night cam to make sure that the mid lane at least is going to be protected through that. Them taking the bosses makes a lot of sense since they want the team fights. But yeah, Roll20 had the curse, and they're not really too far ahead. Even with all the structures that they took down through the curse, it's the Monkey's kill potential that is making the big difference here.
It's going to be that much more difficult with Genji waiting to respawn in about 30 seconds. They finally do get their gank onto Genji, and that looks like Roll20 feels like helping themselves potentially to this boss. They burrow over, find Alex the Pro G. There's the Impale to follow up. Root comes down, locks back Chris for the moment. There's Cocoon onto Phoenix. Not netting too much of a follow-up, so that's a pretty valuable resource that won't be here because Rimmerballer, listen, he's ready.
Yeah, Dehaka didn't make a move topside, so they didn't force the fighter on that. But there's another camp pushing in the mid lane for Roll20, and that's actually a huge deal because that could mean Fort, but this time a rotation is headed that way. Now, the Monkeys, they give up the tribute, and that makes sense. It's the first tribute after the curse for Roll20, so it's not really a very impactful one. Defend the mid lane at least a bit, but the center of attention has to be the boss. You need to make sure that that isn't taken and they're just double checking what's going on around here. But with Cocoon gone, they can take that fight now.
Sundering was used, didn't really net too much. Purification Salvo is lowering the health bar of Quacknix to say the very least. Lornado further isolates the duck. He goes down. Zarmny tries to back away, lands the drag. There's the X-Strike, landing on a number of members of Roll20. Alex the Pro G leading the charge. Zarmny is going to get Shadow Charge on. The Overpower, I'm not even sure that's necessary. They surround him after the burrow. 3 heroes down on Roll20. Monkey Menagerie looks strong.
Monkeys are in team fights just dumpstering on Roll20, especially when an important cooldown like Cocoon is gone. There's little that you can do around that. Strong front line, Blaze, Diablo, Deckard Cain behind that, and damage dealers that have the mobility to dodge. If you are not in that stun lock, you have a great chance of moving around that. So they take another boss, and that's the story of the game. Monkeys will look for team fights. They're going to try and look for those wherever they can, whereas Roll20's burden of execution that we highlighted after the draft is a problem for them right now. They need that flank through Thrall. They can't just fight a straight-up 5 versus 5 in a linear fashion. They need to be flanking. They need to be looking for the Cocoon isolation. And currently, they're finding none of that. And when they do try and attempt it, then there's always a bunker on the ground. We have a Diablo interrupt, or we have a Lornado trying to disrupt the flow of the game for Roll20.
Again, Roll20 find themselves in a position where their heroics have to win the team fight, or the lack thereof is going to cost them said team fight. There's another burrow. The Lornado is going to be enough. A nice Sundering just to allow Zarmny to back up. We got the Cocoon used also as a defensive gesture. They're walking this down top. They're looking for the first keep of the game. Monkey Menagerie there, out-rotating, out-macroing, looking pretty good.
Second attempt at the salvo. Deckard is down, but can they get the counter kill? That keep is going to fall, and it's not the only thing. Thrall down, and Uberak is once again getting wrecked here, and this could be game if Zarmny dies. He's trying to escape here. The stuns are coming through. So far, Dehaka is able to walk away from this. Chris working on the boss, 50% on it. And we have another tribute spawning, but the core is falling.
No support, no problem, say the Menagerie, as they look to go ahead 2-1 in this best of 5. They push through the top keep to get 2 takedowns, and they take that easy stroll over to the core. Monkey Menagerie, they look pretty asleep in game 1, but they are wide awake right now. This is a strong, solid team.
Rema is brawling, and Alex is saying, all right, I'm going to be the one to finish the job here. Goes in and takes the core down. 2 good drafts and 2 wins. After losing the first map, the Monkeys are back to business and they have taken the lead.
Game 1, Roll20, outplay, outmacro. Game 2, Menagerie, outdraft, outplay. Game number 3, Monkey Menagerie, outdrafts, outmacros, outplays, out everything Roll20. We see Roll20, they keep hanging their hat on this Tyrande composition. They're looking for the long-range blow-up. They're looking for the home run hit with these heroics. It's not paying off. And the just slow but steady methodology that Monkeys are finding in these compositions, they look so dominant right now.
Inuburak.
Not the play.
I don't know why. You have the option to go for Muradin with all that we know about Robotoba's playstyle, about what the Roll20 played with in the past. That has to be the choice. Going for Reyna in that particular slot, I don't think it's needed. I think you can take that hero either later, or if it actually gets taken away, you still have other auto-attack options that they played in the past. Then switching into a Nuburak, even though, granted, I don't think it's the perfect choice, I would have liked Johanna more. But yeah, Muradin, I think, was the way to go. And they needed to see that ban coming. If you already have a ban on Garrosh, you have the pick on Diablo, then the obvious choice when we're heading into the third ban and you don't have a main tank on Roll20 side yet, with everything that you know about Roll20, is you ban out Robotoba's Muradin, and all of a sudden he's pushed into a position that he doesn't want to be in. And the setup just didn't work. You have a Dehaka that can play the global game, but that's only it can bring you back when you're behind in experience, and it can put you ahead and maybe even win the game when the map's open. But in team fights, it just didn't see eye to eye there with Monkeys. The Monkeys were just too strong with their setup in any team fight setup.
A good composition requires a certain amount of sustain, certain amount of burst, a quantifiable number that is hard to describe. And how you get there doesn't necessarily matter. We saw that in game 2, main tank Zul, as long as you have enough sustain and enough damage to follow up afterwards, it's going to work. But if you go for just the rolls, if you go for Solo Sport Tyrande and you're not cognizant of a Nubarak's lack of health pool, yeah, you have a support. You have a tank. But if you don't have those numbers, if you don't have that sustain that is a requirement of a good composition, you're going to find yourself falling behind this best of 5. I really hope we see a shift in strategy from Roll20. If they're going to go for Tyrande, they need to leave a Nubarak on the shelf. If they are going to go Tyrande, they need to go for burst damage, something like Li Ming, because the Rainer damage, while it was substantial, it was not enough in key moments to get takedowns.
The draft is going to be interesting for the next game, for sure. I like what the Monkeys are doing from draft perspective. And again, they're wild. They're throwing stuff at you that you might not necessarily expect. Then all of a sudden they come out with a complete meta draft that is very much what you would expect from any other team too. And they are starting to get a little bit better here. The first game didn't really show it, but game 2, game 3, definitely starting to change things up.
Do you think this game is the deal breaker for the Bananas to select Roll20 going into the Crucible? Because right now we're seeing oddball strats and decent execution coming out of Monkey Menagerie, whereas Roll20, we were talking about them being the more linear team, but the arguably higher technically skilled team.
I think both teams have glaring weaknesses that if you are an open division team, you are going to try and target and exploit. So both teams have some aspects where they have weaknesses, and you are aiming for those. And then it's just a question. I think Roll20 is more stable by now and has more of a rhythm, but they're also more predictable in the way that they play. And that can be something that you can try and exploit. And there are several avenues that teams like Monkeys, for example, now have shown. When you're going up against the Monkeys, they have also a couple of weaknesses that we have seen throughout the entire time of play, but they have that added X factor of always trying to surprise you a little bit. If you're worried about that, and a lot of teams in the past have been, where they have saying we'd rather have an opponent that is a bit more predictable, where we know what we're getting into, then you make that choice. So I feel like that's the trade-off that you have there. It's a tough question. I don't know how I personally would answer that. That's really a discussion that I feel as a single person has a tough time to answer. You need to talk it through with the team and say, okay, what do you feel fits more our playstyle? Are we good adjusting on the fly when something like that Zul double support comp is coming our way? Or do we want to go up against someone who has a more clean-cut idea about how the meta works, and we can then, based on that, exploit, for example, a tank hero pool, as we've seen. Try and push Robadoba off the Garrosh, don't allow that, or have a good counter strategy against the Garrosh play, and try to limit the tank pool a little bit to force them into a strategy where they make mechanical mistakes that you can exploit then. It's tricky. I don't feel there's a solid answer, but that's the way that I would approach it. And just like individually answer for the team, what are we more comfortable with?